All right, let's start. We have a really good number of attendees who have joined us already. Yeah, formally welcoming you again for this 3-day live event series where we will discuss how we can use GA to empower our own data insights. We have amazing line of speakers with us and really good content to share with you. Uh, we in just explaining the three-part series in detail. Today is day one, where we will explore between us that what are the main challenges in the digital landscape, where we are using data analytics tool to basically enlighten us more how to read the pattern and data at scale, and we will understand those challenges deeply today. And in the day two part, we will be using the insights and challenges, knowledge points we learned today to go into implementation part and what tools, what solutions we can use to basically solve those challenges. And then there will be day three, which will be grand finale, where we will have a complimentary training for our attendees to basically build a recommendation engine. And obviously, you will have a expert training module from our trainers. And this is going to be an exciting journey, especially today and second part. Please hold on to your seats. And moving on to introduce our line of speakers today. Uh, just before that, before I introduce myself, I wanted to just give you a prologue that data analytics has been close to my heart. It's a process where we know that it's going to help us extract the knowledge from data if done right, and it involves various steps done right, like collecting data, cleaning data, transforming data, analyzing data in order, which helps us find pattern, trends, and relationships between various moving parts of business. And that is close to my heart. And I have the honor to host and moderate this session. I'm leading Tatvik team, and before that, I was with Google. I have been involved in leading Google Analytics for Google India, and been involved in various assignments with the Google Cloud team, Maps team, and before that, my starting role within Google was to lead ad stack, enterprise ad stack, mainly focused on DB360. And right now, I'm focused on using that knowledge to basically bring solutions to our customers at hand. Obviously, joining hands with Google teams in different part of the world. Especially, you can see Kenny on the call on this live event. He also is working with us in Indonesia and Malaysia. We have another esteemed speaker with us. I'll just introduce him. We work with him very deeply. As I mentioned, that Kenny is leading tech partnerships for Indonesia and Malaysia at Google. He has been hands-on expert in understanding GA, making the capabilities of GA well aware to the customers of that region. He is hands-on with 14 years of experience, holding great consultation grip with various brands and partners like us. Previously, he was working with Media Monks and Credit Suisse. We will learn from him on the go that what GA gives us, especially GA4, gives us capabilities to unlock various, wider insights and solutions. And then we have, Nitin Bhargav with us. He has been very active, and vocal, advocate for the capabilities of GA4 over the years. He is right now working at Trust Bank Singapore, and he is hands-on with GA4 capabilities, and he has been a strong advocate of AI and ML usage in data analysis. Before Trust Bank, he has been leading leadership positions at Mox Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and Postal Bank. And right now, he's leading as Chief Data Analytics Officer at Trust Bank. Moving on to the part where we will request you to hold on your seat belts and we start this ride. And I'll invite our speakers to walk through the challenges we have in this DGscape, starting with Kenny, and then we will hand over to Nitin. Kenny, over to you to start the DGscape.
Thanks, Rupir. Thanks for the introduction. It's a pleasure to to meet everyone in the webinar. Unfortunately, we can't do this face to face, but I hope one day, near future, we can hold a wide event where we can meet everyone. So I guess before we even look at where we are at today and how we are going to look into the future, I think it's important for us to also understand where we came from. So maybe if you can go into the next slides. If we look at how we think about analytics historically, at least from universal analytics, uh, we think, okay, well, sessions, one screen, one tab, one browser should be fine, right? But the reality is not that, right? We have evolved past uh, a single screen use into a multi-screen sort of world, where while someone is watching TV or Netflix, they're also on their laptops, they're on their tablets, they're on their phones, right? Attention span is waning simply because there's so much information and there's so much that we want to do, but there's so little time. So we cram everything at a single moment. Hence, we have this disjointed kind of user journey that's quite complex now. And attention is something that we have to fight for and grab. So if you look actually in how the history of analytics has evolved, I think a lot of people forget that it's more than 20 years old, right? Even prior to the acquisition by Google of Urchin, right? It was primarily built for websites, right? Where it was that kind of situation, a single screen sort of situation, but it has evolved over time to kind of try to meet the use cases and the complexities of today's world. However, it's gotten to a point where I think we can no longer just try to kind of build the ship while repairing something, another smaller ship inside. It's time to kind of move past that. And this is really where GA4 came into being a couple of years back, right? And we also want to address the challenge of where third-party cookies are going to basically disappear, right? And we have to be prepared for that. And in doing so, we had to rip the Band-Aid out so that we can face this challenge. And what is that challenge actually? We're going to face a lot of issues when it comes to marketing analytics, especially, right? All the identifiers that we loved that helped us to stitch user journeys together across platform sites is going to go away. The ability for us to, with precision and granularity, look at how your customers are engaging with us is going to be challenged. And with regulations and user consent needing to be present in everything that we do, the way that we work, the way that we collect data, the way that we transform data is also going to change. And these are the challenges that we have to address as the ecosystem changes and the industry changes as well. And what are those kind of challenges that we will also face when it comes to user consent policies and when cookies are going to be gone from existence? Well, we're going to need to make sure that we adhere to all the regulations that governments and regulators put on us. Meaning to say, we need to give a lot of the control back. We need to give a lot of those sort of consent management to the users. We need to be able to enable brands to delete data. We need to be able to be compliant with all the personal data protection laws that's now launching almost everywhere, right? And in doing so, we're going to face a problem as marketers too. We're going to think, okay, now my user list has suddenly shrunk. Identifiable user list, right? So am I going to be speaking to the right people? And am I going to be able to personalize the way that I'm used to doing? The answer is no. We're going to have to kind of change the way we do things and think about it. Simply because everything that we have been doing, from building our audience lists based on converters, based on cart abandoners, based on people who have previously engaged with your website or your other touch points, those things are going to be very, very different, right? Simply because we may not have all those engagement data or user level data that we're used to. Measuring thereafter, attributing to your campaigns will also be very, very challenging, because you're going to see a lot of gaps in those data sets, right? If a user is not going to be consenting to being tracked, if they're on an Apple device that allows them to opt out, you're going to see gaps, right? And we're going to have to be very comfortable with that. And lastly, as Nitin is going to talk about some of his experiences in the hurdles that brands, especially within the finance and fintech sector, is going to face. We're going to have to think about all those things and apply it to the solutions that we are going to be architecting to prepare ourselves and future-proof ourselves. So in doing so, I'm going to pass the time over to Nitin.
Thanks, Kenny. Hi, people. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depends on whichever time zone you are dialing in. And happy to share the stage with Google and Tatvik and talking through few of our experiences and learning over here. So maybe we can call it brand hurdles, or maybe on positive side, I wanted to put up as the building blocks. So these five is what I personally feel are the key to success for any good MarTech implementation. And I think it cut across industries, but yes, more of my experience will be more towards financial sector. So just digging into each one of it, tools versus organization needs, compliant MarTech, a pretty big ask, access management, measurement, both of your goals and also the prioritization angle, and last but not the least, a single customer view. So we'll just spend some time on each of these pillars, and the way we'll do it is let's just try to understand what this pillar means, and then in a very simplistic way, we try to give a framework to the participants. And then if through that framework, what are we trying to achieve? So let's go with the first one, tools versus needs. So and believe me, if you are feeling what you see on a screen, you are not alone. All, at least most of us will be in this journey at some point of time. There are so many tools, there are so many solutions. What's the right fit? So one, we try to put up a framework, like each tool or kit comes with a specific element like marketing analytics, tagging, A/B testing, ads, social media, database, your CRM requirements, loyalty solutions, CDPs or CPs, AIML. And there are again then multiple tools into each vertical. I can't start my work until I have all the blocks in place. May not be the right point. So what's needed, and that's where it comes to one simple advice, and which you will see in like if we can bundle it through one product, and again a bit of advocacy of Google. So like Google comes with a bundle of Google Tag Manager, Google Analytics, Looker Studio, AIML tool. So that's one way to look at it. Other is prioritize your ideas or deliverables, and then based on that, out of these verticals, what is needed. So on that line, like when I talk of a framework and maybe giving some examples as well, that before talking to, oh, I need this 15 tools, can we just first focus on what are our business goals? What are we trying to achieve? Is acquisition your priority? Is monetization your priority? Is retention your priority? Is activation your priority? Data integration needs, given such a vast array of tools, how are they going to talk to each other? Cost for sure, and regulatory requirement. And second bucket is with that evaluation framework, when you come with these are the 3 or 4 bare minimum tools which I need to get my use case live, what's the end result which you have it in mind? Are you going to use it for personalization? Are you going to use it for real-time offerings? And again, like you can solve multiple use cases by the right tool choices. So one example which I wanted to quote is, let's say if you have to do a real-time targeted marketing. In my view, 3 key tools you will need is right tagging. So you know which part of the funnel or which part of the journey your customer is. Right segmentation tool, so you can do real-time targeted segmentation. And then the last leg, delivery, which is you should have a capability to do real-time push or EDMs notification. And what's the end result? You would have a cost-efficient MarTech stack. Yes, this is a bit of an end-state MarTech stack. It would not be possible for most of us to have all that on day one. But as I rephrased, start from the building blocks, start solving use cases. And as and when you have use cases which have higher revenue value, or a cost reduction, or a loss decrease view, then implement the add-ons as the use cases evolves. So that's the first one. And now I hope team get a flow. So we'll go the same 3 or 4 slides per stack. Compliant, very important, specifically for banking, given we are into a regulatory environment and we handle customer data. So how do I handle my data? Where is my data stored? The 3 key pillars: customer. Yes, customer has concerns of how effectively organization is handling my data, what controls I have on the data, and how organization delete the data. From the regulator's perspective, again, traceability, data lineage, audits, data protection are the key demands. And of course, then there are business needs like increasing revenue, retargeting customers, engage customers in the right order. So there is no priority order. All 3 are equally important. And if we get the right mix, using again few of the pointers, that for security, no shortcut. So organization need to have very clearly defined sensitive versus critical data elements versus PII data elements. How are you tokenizing your PII elements? How does your access controls are in place? And you have regular audits to ensure that you are in good compliance. End result, with customer leg, you can tell customers they can trust you, and safe handling of the data. On terms of regulators, reduced breach risk, and of course improved efficiency on the marketing, so fulfilling the business objectives. Moving on, IAM and access management, again bit linked to compliance piece, what I talked about. How do I ensure that authorized people access the sensitive data? So building blocks goes around how do we implement the robust access control. It's not like free for all, but at the same time, right access to right people for the right purpose. Because if you make it too tight and have too many controls, then getting to your personalization and real time becomes a challenge. And more importantly, how organization treat PII data, what level are you tokenizing it, who has the right access for the right work roles. End result, again, a real time IAM system, which allows you one real-time monitoring, but on top of that, efficient administration, automated onboarding processes with the right approval authorities, and centralized user management. Number 4, measurement prioritization, and very critical. And I think through my mocks and trust experience, I am an avid follower of agile methodology. Everybody has priorities, and if we try to solve each and every problem at the same priority order, there is no way we are going to achieve. So very proud to say that even in trust we follow agile, and we have our program increments or a very clear priority of what we are going to deliver in next 2 months. So again, that's our framework, that's our window. Depends on what business you are. Does a week suits you or a quarter suits you? That you need to decide. Like we just put it up, this 2x2 framework, again very intuitive but very strong. Something urgent, something important, gets you your customer objectives, put it first. So I would maybe talk a bit more on agile framework here. Like at organization level, there should be single priority. Until all the key stakeholders are aligned on a single priority, it's very difficult to achieve that objective. And then once that priority is agreed on, maybe 70% all the squads are spending time on those common priorities, and yeah, 30% for your own delivery. So that's one way to achieve it. And again, priority depends, is regulatory and compliance requirement versus profitability versus customer acquisition versus customer churn. You are the best judge on what's critical for your organization, and lead to a single prioritized view across the organization. Last but not the least, unified identity, and become very critical when we again talk of sensitive data and PII data. So how smartly you create an anonymous identifier, and then you ensure that in your Google or your right ecosystem, those identifier flows and allows you to do a mapping to your data, because we have you will have transactional data, which is your core banking. You will have behavioral data, which is your mobile banking. You will have apps tools like AppsFlyer, which do attribution marketing. End of the day, you need to be very clear of how you are stitching all that data together, and then you that's the only way for you to get value out of it. So write architecture first, otherwise you will have a problem of these data silos, and sometimes we will not even able to have that single view. So yes, a single customer view across your platforms, across your system, so that you can have a right compliance, right offers or right personalization, and of course then achieving your business objectives is critical. So those five we think are the right pillars for a right MarTech stack. And back to Kenny on bit of what's new in modeling.
Thanks, Nitin. I totally resonate with especially the last few. I just recall like I would purchase something online, but immediately get remarketed for the same item because they didn't stitch the sales data together with the analytics data, which is always very interesting for me to see. Thanks. And I guess, in my section, it's more to talk about what can we now kind of think about and expect. And really, it's a mindset thing. It's easy from a technology perspective, to be honest. It's always a people sort of perspective that we really need to kind of manage. So let's see how we've come, right? And where we're going to hit towards in this new era of modeling. So just to take you some time back, it was the broadcast area, right? It's an easier and it's a nicer time. I do miss those times. The goal is reach as many eyeballs as humanly possible, right? That was easy. TV, even in digital, just reach, reach, and reach. Over time, we have moved on, right? And we changed to the precision era. This was a good days, right? Where we can say, oh, we want to target the right people with the right message, the right time, right? Sometimes at the right life stage, right? So those was nice, but involved a lot of third-party cookies, involved a lot of data that potentially we may not we may not own, and there were a lot of dependencies on the parties, right? Fast forward to today, with all the compliance that we need to kind of manage, with all the user consent, calls for user consent that we have to adhere to, we now are in the predictive era, right? Where privacy first approaches, automation, AI, I know it's a overused buzzword, machine learning. These are all very, very important because we are now in a cookie free world, or actually at moving towards that, especially with 2024 looming and Chrome deprecates the party cookies, right? So as a business, how can we then effectively reach the right people? How can we then know that we are spending the right dollars to actually speak to our market to the right audiences, right? So this is kind of how we are thinking about it from a Google perspective, right? If 2015 and before that, we're thinking, well, we can observe everything, almost everything, but we still have modeling, right? Because you're never going to capture 100%, right? Today, we need to change that, where modeling is actually going to take the majority pie, right, of what we can report on or observe, right? Together with all the first party data that you have, even your media data that you have, user consent to you owning, and even things that we have lost along the way. People who have not consented to tracking, right? People who are on Apple devices or Safari, for example. How can we bring all that together with the power of machine learning to, with a high degree, or at least a very, satisfactory to close to high degree of accuracy, report your conversions, report the efficacy of your marketing campaigns, and actually what's happening across across your touch points, right? So in our perspective, you need to do a combination of things, in order to achieve that, from data collection to even enabling more signals for the model. So site-wide tagging, foundational. I think everyone knows that. Using a durable, privacy-first, forward-looking platform. This is where we have developed Google Analytics 4, right? With AI, machine learning, conversion modeling all baked into it. And lastly, we have something called enhanced conversions for web to really collect as much observable conversions as possible, right? Which even if user don't consent, goes into the anonymous pool for modeling and to enable still an efficient and effective way of reporting. So, sorry. So what do we then look at then, right, from a sort of end-to-end perspective? So if you have done all that, right, in the middle, as what Nitin has rightfully mentioned as well, you still need to ensure that you are merging all that with first-party data. You need to enrich your first-party data with all these additional signals from all the interactions that your customers have, engaged with you in, so that by having good measurements and understanding where you're at, you can do something about it, either in campaign optimization, informing AI-powered tools such as Performance Max in our Google Suite of Google Ads. All that drives revenue, right? And I think profitability, growing revenues, top of mind for every brand right now. If we don't do this, you're going to not achieve as much lift. You're not going to achieve as much of those headroom potential for your from your customers, right? And lastly, because if you have adopted all these best practices, you're going to be able to deploy certain tactics across all your marketing objectives, be it volume, right, where you want to attract the most people to come into your apps or to your website, to achieving gross value, right? You're maximizing as much of those top funnel traffic into an actual dollar, into actual profit, where now you're being able to attract high value customers that's converting. And then for those who have converted using first party data, using all the best practices that our tech partners, Google, would advise you to do, achieve lifetime value, right? Because we need to also ensure that your base is growing on top of new customers through your acquisition campaigns, right? With this combination, you'll be able to achieve the most success using data, using measurements, using activation tools in your ads campaigns, and then achieving all the use cases or business objectives that you might have. With that, speaking of objectives and use cases, I'll hand it over to Nitin, who will talk a little bit more about what those use cases look like.
Thanks, Kenny. And very interesting architecture what Kenny went through. So yes, and this comes to the interesting part now. Yeah, great model, great tools, but what next? Yes, if you do that, what you see on screen, these are few of the use cases possible. Most of them done in some shape or form over the past few years. But yeah, I would like to share a few which are close to my heart. A single customer view. Again, everybody says it, but very difficult to achieve. But yes, with the right tools and right connectors, not a big ask. Examples, and I'll take a very simple one. Let's say we applied GA, and your entire mobile behavioral data is in BigQuery. So you can use Vertex AI. You can build a very smart model based on which coupons he viewed, what they see, what they redeem. Gives you a pretty fair idea of the behavior. Now imagine combining this with the transactional data, because this customer also has a banking relationship with you, where the card swipes are happening, what kind of buying behavior this customer is showing, whether they are a traveler, forex lover. You can enhance those models once you just merge your mobile data with transactional data, and then overlay bit of demographics to it. It's a much stronger model. So that's the whole idea, like going back to architecture, have a common identifier so you can pitch the data, and more data you bring in, more insightful, more robust the model would be. Uh, this again my personal view, but happy to hear if any other views. Always in, I think in past, always the focus was multi-channel. Oh, we have customer email ID, let's write EDM, let's send push, let's target on social media. If they walk in store targeting. I think now we have smarter tools which tells us bit about channel preference, and when customer like to talk to us, and maybe up to what time as well, like what's a more preferred time to open the email or a push. So from multi-channel, I think the focus is more towards omni-channel. Go through selected channels, go through channel of choice of customer, and at the time when he or she wants it, not when bank want to push. So again, like it would take some time for the tool to learn, but yes, with the right toolkits, you can build up a customer specific channel strategy. Funnels, we just put up an example just to demonstrate the point, but whether you are into online business, whether you are into retail, whether you are a bank, this works everywhere. So we have objective, let's say for a bank, onboard a customer, or for a retailer, sell a product, or something else, and then there is a start point. So always there is a fall through, and using right tagging, especially talking mobile app examples, through right tagging, you know where the customer journey is, you know where the drop off points are, and at a very broad level, if I talk of, I can categorize them only into two. Either something is wrong with your journey, which means customers are seeing errors, and because of the errors, customer is not able to proceed. In that case, tag the error also. You exactly know what errors are being shown and what do you need to rectify. The other part is the journey itself. So maybe your journey is too cumbersome, or there are too many steps, or like the customer doesn't like the journey. In that case, it goes back to UI UX. Have a focus group, find it out what people think about your app journey, and based on the feedback, remodel it. But all these are only possible, you tag the data, you have the data, and you can draw the right funnels, and you can market out the drop off rates. Uh, and lastly, age old RFM. And I think most of us are following this for ages: recency, frequency, monetary. But again, to bring it here, the idea is that can we do these segments on the real time? And then can you use the power of personalization and then give the targeted offer to an individual? So one is you wait for a month, you have your RFM, and then you send an email out telling customers what to achieve. Second is you know that I am 15 days of inactivity. I need some treatment. You also know when I was active what I was doing. So give me a target based on that. Make it bit gamification, make it real time, and engage me so that I would also have something to look forward to and become active again. So that's the whole idea of rebringing this age-old RFM again. I think, yeah, these are 3, 4 cases which I think would be useful to share today. Back to Kenny.
Hope I think we're going to have
And
a nice segue here. We're going to give away stuff, so I'm going to pass it back to Ruby and Jude.
yeah, awesome. I think before we go into the surprise part, I want to do a reflection of what points we have covered. We have gone blazingly efficient and fast in sharing the details we have shared with you. We'll take a pause here for our attendees to just absorb what content and what details our speakers have shared. I'll just revise and help you connect the dots. And I do recommend just meanwhile start thinking the questions you have in your mind. I already see a few questions are already popped up. But help just to help you connect the dots, can you share that we know third-party cookies are going away and the evolution of measurement over time and how GA4 has evolved. And then we have learned that what are the building blocks which Nitish has shared, that what tools and needs we have. And then we learned about the MarTech stack and why it needs to be very compliant in terms of customers' data. taken care of in a right way, and how regulation and policies also should be on top of your mind by making a choice of a MarTech tool that you want to choose. And also, obviously, business needs. There's no sequence, as Nitin mentioned. All 3 points are important. Make the choices in picking your MarTech stack to handle your data properly. And then identity and access management is very important. After you have decided the three factors carefully. And after that, we need to be very agile in our methodology and streamlining the project management, and obviously prioritize your measurement according to the project's requirement. Another point which is shared is unified identity. It's very important to create anonymous identification structure, and also be careful that it leads to single customer view creation in a careful way. And then we learned about how modeling has evolved over time as over the years. Can you share that we have moved from now broad evolution era to precision to now predictive, where modeling is going to be a major part along with machine learning to create a full picture of our customers, and also help us understand the full performance cycle of any engagement we are doing, and continuously still going to help us find the right audience to grow further from there. And then we eventually learned that how Google's privacy-centric measurement at scale is going to solve many of these problems. And then we learned from Nitin's inputs, so what are the main use cases we are focusing and we are seeing in the ecosystem. One of them is single view of customer, orchestrating omni-channel customer support journey, and creating actionable funnel analytics, and then eventually RFM segmentation uh, in a real time way. It's where we need to be really focused on. And I hope this helps you connect the dots of the things we have learned from the speakers. Now coming to the surprise part. Surprise is we will be sharing a questionnaire with you, 5 questions. Stay with us up to the end of the webinar. I highly encourage everybody to be part of this questionnaire. And as a surprise, we will randomly select 10 of our winners and give them access to really insightful books. And that will help you build up some nice strategy for your analytics goals. Yeah, for that, you have to stick with us up to the end of the webinar. And I'll now pass over to Kenny to help us understand what the future looks like.
Can do. Thank you. Thanks, Rabia. Well, we said a lot, and I have shared, there are a lot of changes, but essentially we shouldn't do any different from what we've already been planning to do. I'm sure as either marketers, technologists, right, data experts, we always knew that in order for us to move the needle in terms of maturity, we need to do away with silos and get our data sets as connected as possible, right? With the goal of achieving multi-moment, right? And multi-moment is essentially taking the right message, right time, right customers to fruition, but now having a layer or nuance of using machine learning, using AI, using modeling, right? That's really the only difference, and that's the only thing that we need to prepare for, because the more high quality signals we are feeding into that model or into that machine learning model, the better the outcomes, right? So I just want to make it so scary, like, oh, I have to change all these things, regulations and policies. Yes, we do have to make changes, but it's not any different from where we were actually planning to go from years back, right? I think we've been talking about this multi-moment strategy for a very long time now. So this is where we see ourselves. With every stage of disruptions across all the revolutions, right, from the industrial revolution to present, what has always come up was opportunity, right? An opportunity to do something cool and different, the opportunity to grow your business in different ways, but yet exponentially, and an opportunity for us to essentially, I don't want to say rock the boat, but like to change legacy structures that we are used to. Because with anyone here who is used to working in legacy companies with legacy structures, it's too rigid sometimes, and it's very hard for you to move forward, right? So this is where the opportunity is for us to move forward to a modern state of measurement, but even more so, a modern state of data utilization and activation by making sure that we prioritize the connection of our data points, by ensuring that we are prioritizing innovation in everything that we do, adopting new technologies, being very comfortable with change, and ensuring that we develop as practitioners the habit of experimentation, which is going to be very important moving forward because we're in a flux of change. Nothing that we are going to do in the next 5 to 10 years has been done, right? Or in its complete form. Sure, we've done predictions. Sure, we've built models before. Sure, we've used all these things in our marketing. But with technologies and regulations constantly changing, feature adoptions that you need to worry about, we will need to experiment, right? And we need to be very comfortable with that. So that's kind of where we should start to think about in terms of our process, because in the grand scheme of things, we have platforms, which is easy. We have processes, which we'll need to change and write, but we have people, which is the main thing that we'll need to focus on to ensure that we can move forward in the right way. Yeah. So when we talk about connecting, right, it's the obvious things. Break down your data silos, get to know your customers, reach people where they are. All these things we've talked about, and it's not new. Where I see personally, and from our perspective, is the opportunity is consolidation. And I think Nitin mentioned a bit of that, right? At Google, we believe in that too. In order to navigate a cookieless world, the best thing to do is to make sure that your platforms are able to speak to one another. Be it measurements, be in your data lake, and most importantly, in your activations. The main thing that we need to have in any consolidation is a unique identifier or a key. But if everyone's using a different ID, then we are never gonna, it's gonna be very challenging, right? I don't want to say never, but it's gonna be very, very challenging for us to unify that data stack where it becomes a rich signal and not just aggregated to the point that it's just great for reporting, but not activation. Data has to go somewhere for it to be useful in order for us to achieve our marketing goals. So at Google, we do have a range of tools from the front end to the back, right? If you look at the way we are evolving our media solutions, all the way to how Google Cloud with BigQuery and all its cloud functions are adopting new feature sets so that we can do a lot more easy analysis and transformation of data, right? And to the next part of innovation, we need to think about expanding that, right? So if we think about the platforms now, and then yes, I know that conceptually we need to think about merging that with first-party data. How can we then structure your first-party data such that it's going to be getting the best value, right? Because if it's messy, if it's structured in a way, their tables are never going to kind of match with the various signals across the platforms, you're going to have challenges as well, right? From there, you can at least, if you actually done it right, you can then bid well, right? You can go to a state where your marketing can become more predictable, right? And where we can help is with everything that we're talking about. From Google Analytics 4, we have the user ID approach. We're going to constantly be looking at that to see how, as best as we can, enhance that while staying compliant. We're going to make sure that we're going to give more tools and more customization, more rich kind of feature sets that enables marketers to drive the performance that you desire, right? Especially in this challenging economic environment. And lastly, with our know-how in AI, in getting the best out of insights, how can we make it easy as well in even the reports, out of the box reports in GA4, to allow you to access intelligence and insights about your customers as easy as possible. And lastly, when I talk about experimentation, everything is a test. That really has to ring through. And back to what Nitin has mentioned, it's not just about one person thinking that. it has to come from the entire organization and across teams, because it's going to be a cross-functional effort across your own channels, your paid channels, from management to buy in, that they need to have the wherewithal to say, yes, we tested this, it did not do well, but we should still continue testing, because we are in a very different world today, and we need to establish what works and what does not, and layer on upon what's working with new strategies, with new investments, right? I don't want to say fail fast too much, because no one likes to hear the word fail, but I will say that you need to have a degree of appetite to not do so well, right? The long-term goal is there. You need to make those small changes over time to achieve a big outcome. It's really what analytics is about anyway, right? There is never a silver bullet analytics where you go, there's an insight, let's do this, and we're going to achieve 50% uplift in our campaigns. Analytics is where we look at the insights, the trends, and what data is telling us to make tiny changes and assess how we can further improve and optimize across every engagement that a user touches our brand, so that we can eventually get uplift 4%, 5% each time, and eventually reaching that big lift, right? Because we've done all the right things. And leaning on machine learning and AI to automate as much of that tedious process as possible, right? So that we can be effective and we can actually remove our reliance on third-party cookies and things that we do not own. Right. So that's, to me, and that's at this point where we're looking at from a Google perspective of how we can navigate this new future of ours. I guess thank you everybody for your time. Thank you, Tatvik, for inviting me. We'll move to questions, but before that, I'd like to thank everyone who has joined, and Nitin as well for providing all this insight. So over to you, Rubia.
Super. I'll also add in the connecting the dots part for just what we learned from Kenny is we need to come up and be prepared with multi-moment strategy, have a strong focus on the connect part where we need to break down silos of data, get to know our customers very well, reach people where they are, and innovate faster where we need to expand our signals, move from precision to prediction approach, and be very, very organized internally to experiment at scale, embrace the practice, and have a mindset that test is an ongoing mindset, and fail fast and fail often. And with this, I can see a lot of questions already are there. Thank you for that. And we do have a good time remaining for to address them. I'll start with a question for you, Nitin. Thank you for great insights that you have shared. As a digital bank, how do you find the balance between adopting new analytics tool while ensuring the data that you are gaining remains actionable and relevant to the big banking objectives?
Thanks, Rubin. Great question. So yeah, as I was sharing at earlier part of my presentation as well, sometimes you get overwhelmed with the tool. So the first and foremost thing is what's objective I'm trying to solve, and to meet that objective, what's the right tool. So I'm very proud to say, like, we are the world's fastest growing digital bank now. So yes, our initial focus was acquisition. We just opened our doors last September. So given acquisition focus, translating it back to analytic needs, right funnels, right tagging, right remarketing tools, and able to reach customers real time. Those were the priorities. So those were the first set of tools prioritized. As we are moving in the journey, now we have sizable customer base. We are moving towards segmentation, focus on LLMs and AI ML. So getting the right toolkits and a right ML tools is what we are working on now. So just be aligned to business objectives, and then selecting tools as a secondary to meet those objectives would be the right strategy in my view.
Awesome. Amazing point that you have highlighted. Yeah, another question I have for Kenny. With GA4 constantly being updated, a lot of features are being rolled out. How do you ensure that businesses, especially in the niche digital banking area, are able to transition smoothly without losing critical historical data or insights? It's a top question right now in the market.
Yeah, and I think by historical insights, it will be from the universal analytics platform, right? Look, I think there are many ways to cut it, but it's really one that I believe as like a best practice foundation. Back it up, right? Like if right now you should be a premium customer, you should be a 360 customer because the standard has already deprecated, right? You have access to GBQ or Google BigQuery. Export your data as often as you can. Ensure that you work with your tech partner to take snapshots of your key milestones in your reporting so that you have a point of reference if you don't want to retransform that data again, right? We are going to transition into a new data model, and variances is inevitable, right? You're never going to be matching 100% GA4 with universal analytics, right? So the best thing that you can do now is to one, back everything up, understand the differences, and be prepared with how you're going to be comparing the data sets from what you're used to in universal analytics and where you're going with GA4. And for those who are already on GA4, who are still going through the process of new features, new exports, capabilities, utilize GBQ still, right? Utilize BigQuery, even as a free customer. And this is the best thing about GA4. Even as a free customer, you're going to get native integrations with BigQuery, which is so powerful. So that's if anything, that's the number one thing that you should be doing.
Spot on. It was, I think we resonate very closely into our inputs, Kenny. Spot on. PQ free export is a great add-on with GA4. Now I will move on to our attendee questions. We have, close to 8 questions now. Please keep them coming, all attendees. Thank you so much for staying with us for this webinar, and I hope you are gaining a lot of new insights. I'll start with a question for you, Nitin. The question is from Raja Gautam. The question is, can we not convert the capture data to indicative data and lose the initial capture data, thereby reducing the privacy concern along the way while we compensate for the cookie loss? I'll repeat the question. Yep.
No, I got that, and I think that's a
Okay.
great point you make. And yeah, that's the right strategy. But at least like for the financial sector, we can't afford to lose data. So yes, in our terminology, the right word would be tokenize. But yes, means from that PII or tokenized data, what are you going to do? And that's determine how you want to use it. So I'll take a simple example, date of birth. Yes, it's a PII, like date of birth combined with any other data points, you know who the individual is. Do you really need date of birth? You integrate the end users again. Yes, I wanted to wish a customer, great. But if you just wish a customer, what is in it for the customer? Then comes the next one. I wanted to give a better pricing, better offer to the customer, great. Then does it has to be only on the day of birthday? No, maybe we can extend it for a week or for a month. Great. So if that's your end use case, then you don't need date of birth. You need week of birth or you need month of birth. Take those two data points, rest everything you don't need it. So that's one smarter way to deal with the data, and then with week or month, that's completely non-PII, and you use it for analytics, you need it for modeling, you need it for targeting. It's all open.
Great insights. Yeah, I'll move to Kenny. The question is from Bartolomeus Pamenti. By site-wide tagging, you meant server-side tagging.
There are two ways, right? Like it's really just tagging your whole website. That's what site tagging is about. So that you're capturing especially your key user journeys, right? So there are two ways. Obviously, there is server-side tagging, as you mentioned, but that's an option not always for every brand because that requires engineering resource, for example, that they might not have or have very limited access to. You can still do that via Google Tag Manager, implement the one Google tag, unifies Google Ads, GA4 quite nicely within that container. That is another way that's also a bit more agile and it's lighter on the load as well.
Super. All right, so next question we have is from Hiren Desai. It's for you, Nitin. How are you measuring email and SMS performance by different segments? and that too up to ROI level?
Hiren, again, in this part of the world, SMS not that a focus area, at least for banking. Yes, email and push are. So, like, let's take email as an example to answer your question. So, very long way back, we moved away from kind of number of EDMs as a KPI. So yes, now lesser the EDMs, better for us. And we had demonstrated and looked through data that if you go really targeted and really segmented, your open rates goes higher, and that's what you want to achieve, right? So one critical indicator will be open rates. Second, your test and control. That's purely talk about my ROI case. So I can prove to business that if I have not sent, what's the impact versus sending this EDMs. EDM plus push is another smarter way. Like sometimes impact of push followed by a EDM is much more than just a push or a EDM. So how can we combine communications for better results? So yes, I think open rates, test versus control results, A/B testing you should do just to check what works, because obviously if you are not doing that, then it just kind of one vertical. Yeah, these will be the 3-4 KPIs which we, and one more important one I would say, and I don't know how many people look in that direction. EDMs per customer, and look at kind of a spectrum, because you at least want to nudge your customer at least once a month. On other hand, you also don't want to overdo it. So have a right contact policy based on your business and what kind of product you are into. And then based on that contact policy, are you reaching the right customers optimally? And more importantly, are you at least reaching them once? They your segment should not be so drastic also that you left a segment of customers with nothing. So those 3-4 pointers should be the right for the ROI tracking.
If I may also just lay on a perspective on top of everything Nitin said, which is 100% correct. I think also like depending on marketing objective or goals, measuring EDMs or SMS in a silo may not be also the best approach. With everything that we're saying today, every channel contributes to an end goal. All right. So if a conversion is the end goal, then we have to look at contribution, right? And then looking at the right metrics in how each channel contributes, be it owned or paid, contributes to that end goal, right? Because as we have talked about, the user journey is complex. It's very difficult for us to just attribute one channel as the source of a conversion. These are things that we just need to be cognizant about.
Thank you, Nitin and Kenny. Great insights and inputs. I can resonate with them a lot. And also, I am seeing our audience is also resonating with it. We are getting a great quality of follow-up questions. I will again, Nitin, moving on in the follow-up for this. Next question is also for you. It's coming from Raja Gautam. What approach do we take in case the initial experience of the customer has not been good and is currently hibernating? Uh, do we need to do nudging? If yes, and that is how?
Yeah, Raja. So maybe I'll give 2-3 different aspects to it, because it can be a customer who never responded to you, or it can be a customer who was active and become inactive. So in both scenarios, the treatment varies a bit. So my view would be, one, again, going back to segmentation and A/B testing. So more segmented, more targeted, more personalized you go, better the response. And yes means he was active but went kind of silent now. A/B testing is another good tool. Like, try it out, what works for the time base. In case if it's a second issue, like you had never seen this activity at all, that's where your lookalike and collaborative filtering kind of models comes into play. So look for the similar profile customers, what they're doing, and those kind of offers may be helpful. And lastly, again, going back to the same EDM example, we need to have a contact policy. Like, are we again overreaching? And that's a reason that, like, no segmentation and you just blast. then people tend to reply less. So higher open rates, higher conversions, higher response, these are the right KPIs, and that should drive your customer communication strategy.
Super. Uh, I'll move to the next question. Question is from Hiren Desai. This is for you, Kenny. For Kenny, what's the roadmap for DCM EC solution? We are today limited to use EC via Search Ads 360 or AdWords.
Right. Thanks for the question, Hiran. We officially haven't announced yet what the roadmap looks like for CM. We are focusing on our core products first, because that's where we see the most impact. I can't speak for the product teams, but we will definitely prioritize the rest of our product suite where applicable as soon as we can. It just will take time as we are slowly rolling out alphas, betas, and general available products for enhanced conversions as we speak. What's going to be next, we'll definitely have to kind of look at once we've gotten these core products across the line. So I apologize, I don't have the exact dates yet and timelines, but as they launch, we'll definitely be sharing with our customers.
Great. Let's look for that date announcement. Yeah, next question again is for you, Kenny. It's coming from Ayushi Seni. How GA4 will be used for behavior and conversion modeling if partial consent or no consent is given by the user? What pings or tags will be attached to the user?
Question. So there's a feature in GA4 called Google Signals. Please enable that. Essentially, even if we are not given consented, we are going to be looking at anonymized aggregated pings, right, by users, as long as you've gotten all your tags and events implemented, right? So whatever is anonymized, we would then bucket them, right? On the background, we will use Google Signals, we'll use our conversion modeling, we'll use any sort of behavioral modeling together with that, all those different signals, be it identified or anonymized, to put together what is the best prediction of an outcome, right? Be it from a conversion, or be it from maybe a customer has added to cart or some other kind of behavior that we're tracking or reporting on. Hope that answers your question.
Yep, I believe it does, but happy to have a follow-up question if there is. I believe we have Nitin with us for very limited more time. I want to uh, wholeheartedly thank you, Nitin, for you to join in this webinar and share your insights. And we will continuously taking the questions between me and Kenny. But thank you again, Nitin, for joining and sharing your
Sure.
details.
Thanks, Karthik. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to the next question. It's for you, Kenny. Question is coming from Cheryl Young. There is still a lot of raw data in business for traditionals. It is very time consuming to integrate and analyze these data points. How do you think that they can make use of these data efficiently?
Right. For by traditional businesses, I'm guessing maybe CPG brands, maybe uh, you know, auto perhaps, right? To be honest, if you're using a great platform like BigQuery, together with experts like Tatvik, they can use a lot of the automation tools within Google Cloud to help you with that, to transform that data, to clean it based on parameters. But it first has to start with what are your goals with the data, kind of data you have, from a customer, be it, is it a PII, or is it like a SKU data and whatnot, right? And then what is an outcome that you want to achieve with that data beyond the business goal? So I need to transform this, push it to platform A, B, and C for remarketing, for example, or to create lookalike audiences. So if we start off with these questions, understanding these questions, partners like Tatvik will be able to look at your data set use automation tools that has AI embedded or machine learning embedded into it to automate as much of that as possible. I'm never going to say that it's 100%, but it certainly does take a lot of load off your shoulders.
Yep, indeed. Happy to move to the next question. It's from Edward Ko. How do we get access to the team for support? I think I can take this. Uh, we will send a follow-up email after the webinar where you will be able to get in touch with us over email ID. And obviously, we'll be sharing LinkedIn profile details for all our speakers and me. Happy to, connect after the webinar for any questions you have. Now we have last three questions after this. Uh, yeah, Kenny, for you. Question is from Namta Nate. What provisions have publishers taken to accommodate a cookieless ecosystem?
Great question. So transparently, I'm not like I've not really been super involved with publishers. I've always been brand facing. However, from a in my past life, some minimal involvement in a Google News initiative. What we've been doing, and this was I think about 3 years back, we've been preparing publishers in a way where we are helping them make sense of content. So in the way that they've been tagging and categorizing and labeling their content, already helps inform how users are engaging with content. That's the first step, right? Because not all publishers have a gating system or a paywall, or not all have a login mechanism, right? In fact, almost all of them don't, right? So the best way is to tag or track as much as possible within, of course, regulations, um, but really understand how the readers are consuming the data at a given moment of time, and across pages, across categories, across events, people, and so on. From there, they make sense of that data, and if that data set is also tagged to a client ID, GID, that can be matched back, especially to Google, then for one, in terms of monetization, they have created a very high value inventory because they are able to now segment people by low to high engagement. They're able to then also segment the inventory into the specific category of interests that specific advertisers would like, right? So once they have done that, they can target, a lot of these users back as well, right? If they want to buy Google inventory for in their own kind of marketing initiative as well. So it works both ways, but the first step is to understand, or rather to categorize, label your content as best as possible. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, indeed, it hopefully does. Kenny, you're getting a lot of questions. You being a Googler here with us, and I think you would be the best person to answer the next three, four questions.
Right.
As a channel, the question again is from Raja Gautam. As a channel, what are your thoughts on RCS, which is Rich Communication Services? Currently, the devices supporting that are very less. Do you see this picking up in the future?
I'm by no means an expert in that field. I will admit it, but I think there are a lot of Android users, and Google is quite a big supporter of you know using the right sort of tools that's modern and that can help with communication. So I think you'll see a lot of support in this area. I'm not sure where the numbers are in terms of like supported devices being very little. I might be wrong, but I'm happy to kind of pick this up later. But that's where I'm seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we will also take a note of this question and follow up internally. Uh, Probably we'll pick up after the webinar and give us, follow-up details on that. Next question is from Shakira AK. Again, it's for you, Kenny, to respond. In the new GA4 acquisition report, seems we can't drill down the referral report to see the list of referral sites. Why is that? And will GA enable this in the near future?
Okay, that's a great question. I may need to kind of table this, but from my understanding, a couple of things, right? One, we are going to see a challenge in cross-site measurements, right? That's probably one of the reasons. Whether it will be enabled, that's a big question mark. We might get more clarity post 2024 after cookie deprecation. I will have to kind of look back into this. So apologies, I can't answer it right now fully. I'm happy to kind of pick this up later.
Super. And moving to the last question, why can't we see the real-time data the way we could see it in GA3?
Right. I'm guessing it's to do with like you're able to see like buckets in 5 minutes, right? It's yes, it's reported a bit differently. But if you hover over the bars, you can actually see quite refresh quite in quite real time. Like I think there's a 5 minutes lag, but it all goes back to the data model, and I may not have all the answers here. I apologize if I'm getting this wrong, but if you look at how GA4 is built, it's built more with a skew towards Firebase, for example, and how apps measure things, right? And with everything that we're collecting across customers, the pipe and the volume of data going through our pipes is massive, right? So in building the platform, we have to be very efficient in the way we are thinking about building our reports, building our products, right? Because the last thing we want is to have the product crash or the reports just not really work as intended, right? So it's I believe a combination of reasons. I can't represent the product team here, but there are a lot of considerations when we think about building the reports, building the platform in general, and it's never just about what we want to see. It's about the infrastructure behind it as well to make sure that we are supporting it in the best way possible. Just because look, there's app plus web, right? And there's a lot in between as well. So hopefully that kind of answers the question as well.
I hope, Ayushi, you got the answer. But yeah, this much time we have for questions. And moving on to give you a highlight on when is the next part of the webinar happening. It's going to be happening on 12th September, coming Tuesday, and the last portion of the webinar would be on 19th. It's going to be the subsequent Wednesday. And looking forward to join you in the next webinar for going deep into the implementation part. And it will be led by Nitin and Jyoth. Nitin again will join us again for that, and Jyoth is from Tatwik team. He's leading the MarTech activities for APAC, and he will be leading the implementation webinar. Yeah, and summing it up, I hope the webinar and the details and insights and all the questions answered adds value to your time you have spent with us today. Thanking all the attendees and speakers again. Thank you, especially Kenny and the organization team at Tatwik to host and enable this to happen today. And thank you all. May you have a great day and week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Great week. Bye.